Alright, hi there everyone. We're back here for another Scars of Mirrodin Block 8-4 draft. And just get things started here. We're going to go move right into pack 1, pick 1. And pack doesn't have a whole lot for us. The first thing that stands out obviously is the rare. Thron is big beating. And it goes perfectly well into an archetype like dinosaurs. Other cards to mention here, maybe Gore Vassal is a decent creature / removal card. Blight Widow is the best infect card. Well, actually not the only infect card. Titan Strike is not that great, but because it's sort of like an off-color infect color card, so I don't really like to move in on infect here. There's a lot of green cards in this pack that are reasonable. Tangle Mantis is also fine, but everything else doesn't really hold a candle to Thron. I'm gonna try and go for the dinosaurs plan here and pick up the Thron and see what else I get. Well, that's a signal. That's a White Sun Zenith. White Sun Zenith is one of the most powerful white cards I can think of in this set. It's a pretty strong signal just to move in on it right now, right here. The person to our right took an uncommon out of this pack. Probably took something like Corrupted Conscience, maybe. Maybe something like Into the Core. I can't really think of too many uncommons that I'd pass over first pick White Sun Zenith. But I can't talk today. Yeah, there's nothing really else that stands out of this pack. Like Treasure Mage is alright, but I obviously don't have anything to go with it. So maybe green-white sort of beat-down strategy. We'll see how that works out, but I'll pick up the White Sun Zenith here. This pack kind of blank. Got Phyrexian Juggernaut, Skinwing, Phyrexian Revoker. Nothing in green and nothing really in white. Like Loxodon Partisan, Banishment Decree aren't that exciting. Copper Carapace is okay, but it's definitely between the two uncommons here. I think the two uncommon artifacts. I mean, Phyrexian Revoker is just a bear, so I'm not too excited about having it. I think it's either between like a really solid 6-drop creature that'll be played in pretty much any archetype, or like a solid 4-drop, like 4 mana 2/2 flying is just overall decent. It could go really well with something like Thron as well. I think I'm gonna pass the infect card here to sort of put someone else in infect, hopefully, and give us more of the non-infect cards. It seems like it'll fit our strategy more. So I'm gonna try and go with the Skinwing here. It might end up being incorrect. We'll see. Well, there's a couple more infect cards, and that doesn't really, like, we're trying to avoid that at this point with a Thron and a White Sun Zenith. So I think the Peace Strider here is the pick for us. I mean, there's nothing really exciting about either of the green cards here, and we have no real reason to go red. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like white's really coming, but we'll see how that pans out. We might have to end up cutting the White Sun Zenith, but it depends really if there's a second color worth moving into later on. But yeah, the Peace Strider is a fine card to pick up at this point, so I'm going to take it. Okay, so now we have another choice between committing to white or taking an open card like Skinwing. Considering we have 2 4-drops already, I don't want to start this draft off overloading with like a really heavy. Actually, we have 3 4-drops already and like a really big late game spell. So I'm not a big fan of taking more 4-drops at this point. I think committing to white with the Leonin Skyhunter is a good thing, because I think White Sun Zenith is our biggest bomb so far, and trying to cut the white signal out might help us out for pack 2. So I'm going to take the Leonin Skyhunter here and ship the Skinwing. Other cards to remember about this pack that may or may not come back is the Phyrexian Rager. Concussive Bolt's a decent card, but it's not great. Everything else is pretty mediocre, so I'm going to take the Skyhunter and move on. This pack doesn't have a whole lot going for it. Again, Master's Call is alright, so is Peace Strider. I think Peace Strider is the biggest value card for us because it has a pretty big impact on the board. Like, it comes down right away and just sets you up in a defensive position, which might work out better if we're going for the White Sun Zenith plan. But at the same time, again, we have 3 4-drops already. Maybe taking something like Master's Call is better. The Viridian Emissary is also really good here. Actually, we don't have too much in the 2-drops. I think the Emissary is actually the best pick here because it fits our curve and sort of solidifies our second color too. So I'm going to take that. Maybe we're sort of setting mixed signals, sending more white cards, but what are you going to do, right? There's a Pierce Strider in this pack still, and there's an A Quarter Paladin, which also is a decent card for our curve. I think I think people undervalue a Quarter Paladin a lot because that strategy isn't that strong all the time, but with something like White Sun Zenith, that could be a pretty good late game card as well. But at the same time, I think Pierce Strider is a very good value card straight up, so I don't think I can ship it at this point. Things like a Quarter Paladin might still come around if it came this late, so I'm going to take the Pierce Strider and then see what we get. Not a whole lot in this pack. There is Unnatural Predation, which is not that exciting for us. Priest of Norn, we're not in the Infect deck, and our deck doesn't need to be that defensive, I don't think. So something like Mirror Sire would probably fit in well. It curves out. I'm not a fan of Ardent Recruit. I don't like I think most of you have watched my other draft videos. Anytime I draft Metalcraft, I'm not a fan of Metalcraft cards that aren't artifacts themselves, with some exceptions, but yeah, I'm not going to make an exception for Ardent Recruit. So I'm going to take the Mirror Sire here and see how that works out. We got a Gore Vassal back out of this pack, which is pretty good for us. Gore Vassal is not the greatest removal spell, but I mean, it'll do in a pinch, and for white, you know, you can't really do that much better. Master's Call is also a decent pick here too, since it, you know, generates Metalcraft pretty much instantaneously. I don't think Bladed Sentinel is we don't need to overload on 4 drops again, like we already have 4. Taking the Gore Vassal here seems a little bit better than taking Master's Call, so I'm just gonna cost sort these so we can take a better look at it. This pack doesn't have a whole lot for it. I'm a little scared of something like Concussive Bolt that could kill us. Maybe Dross Ripper. Yeah, I'm a little bit more worried about Concussive Bolt than Dross Ripper, so take that out of the pack. All these white cards are tabling, so I'm pretty happy about that. Like, it seems like having the White Sun Zenith at this point might be pretty good for us. So I think we want to commit to white and take something like Loxodon Partisan. Nothing a whole lot here. I mean, Glissa's Courier is a fine sideboard card, and for now it'll stay in the main deck, but I want to end up cutting it. And I cut another white card. Our deck's looking really top heavy with all these all these Bladed Sentinels. I'm gonna cut the Bladed Sentinels for now. I don't think we're gonna need that many. Like, I might play one or so, but we have a lot of 4 drops already, and I think they're all better than Bladed Sentinels as it is, so. So far, this pack is not bad, and we got a Nim Deathmantle and a Rest out of this pack. This is kind of tough. I really like Nim Deathmantle. I think it's one of the most solid equipments there is, but like, it definitely dominates the late game, but it's something you don't want to have in your opening hand for sure. There's also a Perilous Mirror in this pack, so this pack actually has a lot of things going for it, and a Wall of Tanglecord. I think that none of these cards will table back to us. I think the picks will be somewhere in the order of Dim Deathmantle, Arrest, Perilous Mirror, Tanglecord, or also Trigon of Rage mixed in. Depends who's the Infect deck. Or even non-Infect decks might pick up the Rage as well. But I think taking a Perilous Mirror if you're not in the Infect deck is probably a better pick over than the Trigon of Rage. The Sentinel might come up at some point between like the Wall of Tanglecord or the Perilous Mirror or Trigon, depending on who snaps it up. I really want to take the Arrest of this pack because Green-White's not notorious for having a lot of removal spells, but at the same time, putting like Nim Deathmantle on like Thrun can be really, really devastating. So I don't think I can pass that up, and you get really good value out of Nim Deathmantle in the late game, so I'm going to try and capitalize on that. This deck really wants to play X-Spells, doesn't it? I mean, I really kind of want this Genesis Wave, but it's a little bit greedy, and there's 2 Mana Mirrors, and Palladium Mirror is definitely standing out as the pick for me here, because our deck has a lot of things that it wants to do in the late game, and being able to generate a lot of mana quickly is a big necessity to us. So unfortunately I have to pass up on the Genesis Wave here, but I think taking the Palladium Mirror is definitely the better pick. We might even get lucky and wield the Genesis Wave, but it's unlikely. So wow, we got an Arrest this late. That's pretty good. This pack is pretty loaded though. I mean, the rare is gone, but all the uncommons are still here, albeit they're not that great. So there's been a rare and 2 commons taken out of this pack, and there's still a Grasp of Darkness, a Turn to Slag, and an Arrest. So I really wonder what was in this pack to begin with. Like, there might have been, can't really think of too much, like a Shatter? I think like maybe you take Shatter over Turn to Slag, I'm not sure. Maybe Galvanic Blast, that could be it. Anyways, the pick for us is definitely Arrest. I'm just trying to analyze this pack a little bit more, but I'm not 100% familiar with the crit runs in Scars of Mirrodin, so I'm going to guess that there was some kind of bomb rare and maybe a Galvanic Blast in this pack. Maybe some kind of blue card, because we haven't been seeing blue cards turning up that much. So anyways, taking the rest here, moving on. This pack, we got a Leaden Mirror, a Horizon Spellbomb, a Silver Mirror. Galma's Warden, no, is not the pick for us. Obviously Archer's not that solid either. Trinket Mage is good, but obviously we're not playing blue. Platinum and Pyrion literally cost infinite. I mean, I think it's just definitely between one of the mana mirrors at this point. I'm trying to think of what we may or may not end up splashing, and thinking of like what we could open in the next couple of packs. I think it's more likely to be black than blue, but I can't really think of anything that jumps out at me right away. No, I really can't, but I think I'm just gonna go with the Leaden Mirror. If there was a red mirror here, I'd definitely take that, but unfortunately there was not. This pack has a Wall of Tanglecord in it, and pretty much nothing else for us. There's a Furnace Celebration to keep note of, and although I've drafted the Furnace Celebration deck before, but it's usually pretty clunky and it takes a lot for it to get going, so I'm not too worried about passing it at this point. I'll take note when I see a second one going around. There's a red mirror, and there's a Kemba Skyguard. I think that our deck wants more mana still than, like, Kemba Skyguard is alright and everything, but I don't think our deck is going to really take to the air that much. Like, if we were white-blue, I think I would take the Kemba Skyguard over the Iron Mirror at this point, but, like, we do have 2 mana mirrors, and we have another pack of Scars, so we don't actually have to snap up the Iron Mirror at this point. We could take a solid, just, you know, it's not defensive flyer, it's an offensive flyer, but our deck sort of wants to be put in a defensive position to win the late game, so gaining life is actually a decent, you know, proposition for us, for our deck to do. So I mean, unless you're playing against Infect. So I'm going to take the Skyguard here and bank on getting another mirror out of the rest of this pack or the next pack. Well, it's not this pack, so there's definitely I think definitely the Origin Spellbomb is the pick over the Galma's Warden. There's nothing really else that stands out here. Blunt the Assault might be a fine sideboard card, but I'm not going to take it over a solid card in our colors. And Galma's Warden's alright, but we're not like exactly anything close to Metalcraft right now, nor do I really want to be with Galma's Warden. And even if there's a Chrome State in this pack, I think I'd still probably take the Origin Spellbomb over it, because we don't really want to commit to a Metalcraft plan here, and we don't have too much to take advantage of it anyway, so let's move on. That is a really late Mirrorsmith, and if that's not a signal, I don't know what is. And there's still a Glinthawk in this pack too, but suffice it to say, Mirrorsmith definitely takes it here. Glinthawk, as good as you are, you know, you're no Mirrorsmith, so I'm going to take that one. And that was a pretty good gift. This pack has pretty much nothing for us. I never know when we might end up playing a Salvage Scout, but for the moment I'm going to hide it. Soul Parry, good sideboard card. Nothing else really I want to play in this pack. Maybe Azuri's Archers, but I'm not too hung up on passing it. So I mean, I'm not too hung up on taking it. I'm fine with passing it here. Because we have a couple of mirrors and we got a Mirrorsmith, I think taking the Mirror Galvanizer here is fine. We might not have to play it, but I think it might be better than starting a Glissa's Courier, for example. Galma's Warden, fine. I eventually take one of you guys, and you can play with all your Psychic Miasmas. I cut those, and Copperhorn Scout, sure. And I cut you though, and Soul Parry is on the board. So far our deck looks alright. Oh, I forgot, Mirrorsire is also another mirror that gets pumped by Mirror Galvanizer. And we could live the dream and pick up 2 Mirror Galvanizers, but that doesn't really happen all the time. So this deck looks pretty good, I would say. Not the greatest, but it's fine. This pack, we got a lot of picks here actually. Asceticism, Heavy Arbalist, Tangle Angler, Rusted Relic, a bunch of mana mirrors, 1 on-color mirror, Silvok Replica, could splash a Galvanic Blast if we wanted to. It's tough, actually. Definitely not looking towards a splash here. We don't really have anything that helps enable the splash other than a Viridian Emissary at the moment, so I'm not too worried about shipping that. I think it comes down to maybe a Mana Mirror, Silvok Replica, Asceticism, or Rusted Relic. Asceticism goes a lot better in a deck that capitalizes on an early game, like an Infect deck. So I don't think our deck really needs to be doing that. Our deck tries to set up and win the late game. Although Asceticism is a very annoying card to deal with, but Sylvolk Replica can deal with it, for example, so there's a good reason to take that as well. Sylvolk Replica is also just a very solid value card. Tangle Angler is also very, very good, even if you're not in the Infect deck. But I'm looking at the rest of the things here. We need a removal spell, and a creature-based removal spell probably is the best answer for us here, especially over Splashing Galvanic Blast, so I took that there. This pack, we got some more decisions. We got another removal spell in Revoke Existence, with Splash of Shatter. But I think Golem's Artisan is probably the best card out of this pack for us. It's a little bit on the heavy side, even though we have a lot of things to do in our late game already, but it's one of those cards that can just really just win a game by itself if it goes unchecked, and it's just so board dominating if you just get to untap with it. So I think that's a good enough reason just to pick it up here. We don't have a whole lot. Oh wait, there's an arrest. So there's an arrest in this pack, and there's a Tyrannax, and a bunch of other sideboard cards. There's a couple of infect cards that we might want to keep track of, but at this point, like, I haven't seen too much in ways of infect, so I'm happy like that we're not in the infect deck, because we're not in a position to move into it at any point here. And if we did, we would have gotten horribly cut off. So just remember, like, there might be some Corpse Curse shenanigans and Throne of Geth stuff happening, so keep that in the back of our minds while I take this arrest. Okay, so at this point, we have to kind of figure out what our deck wants to do. The picks are between Chrome Steed, Untamed Might, Wall of Tangle Cord, and possibly Darksteel Sentinel. I don't really like Darksteel Sentinel here. I like the idea of either Wall of Tangle Cord or Chrome Steed here. Untamed Might is probably the pick I would take if I was the Infect deck. But looking at my deck now, I might not even actually have to be green now that I think about it. Because I could have been taking that Galvanic Blast, for example, before, but we're green now. I think we're still sticking with one of these artifacts here. I think we're probably going to have enough artifacts as it looks like. Yeah. Plus we have a Mirrorsmith. I think taking Chrome Steed might be fine here. And cutting something like Galma's Warden, so yeah, I'm going to take that. I think the wall might be better because it's like, it's almost like a removal spell, but not exactly. We'll see. This pack really doesn't have a whole lot for us. I think it's like Withstand Death or Hate a Trinket Mage, Galma's Warden maybe. You know what, like there's really, I don't think we're going to play too much of this pack. I'm questioning like if I can go blue for anything. Like going Trinket Mage for an Origin Spellbomb doesn't seem that great. It seems okay, but I think like green, like staying green for Thrun is better than that. So I'm going to take the Withstand Death here, and maybe that'll work out. Like I'm probably not going to start it here, so I'm going to hide that. I'm trying to think between Origin Spellbomb and Snap Sail Glider. I think that our deck can actually be reasonably aggressive if we start flying. We might have enough Metalcraft to work it out, so I think maybe taking the Snap Sail Glider is fine here. The Origin Spellbomb would be fine if we were trying to splash something like Galvanic Blast, but I think we passed up on that, and I don't think we need that at this point in the game anyway, so yeah, take the Glider. Man, there's so much to like help us splash that red if we took that blast, now that I think about it, but there's Mana Mirrors in this pack, and our deck wants a lot of mana in the late game. So I'm going to take the on-color mirror here and move on. Wow, it's a late Perilous Mirror. I'm pretty happy to take it at this point. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. Wow, okay, that's a Glint Hawk too. Trying to look at the way this deck is going to curve out. We could take the Glint Hawk here. It seems fine. I think it's, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, Rustic Relic is a fine Metalcraft card, but the thing I don't like about it is that, like, if your Metalcraft plan doesn't work out, it's just like a dead card. Glint Hawk is just decent value almost all the time. It might be a little clunky at times, but I think we can manage it with the way our curve looks like. Yeah, I think it should be okay. I'll take the Glint Hawk here. Nothing doing for us in this pack, so I'm going to take the Wayfarer as a sideboard card. And we're going to have to cut a lot of cards, obviously, so I just got to do that later. Trigon of Thought out of this pack? Like, everything else is just kind of crappy, so. Seize the Initiative might be a fine sideboard card, depending on it, and I'll just take another one. I think this deck is alright. It's not the greatest. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but we do have 3 mana mirrors and a Radiance Emissary. So we got a decent plan to get to our late game. And we have a lot of decent stuff in the early game to sort of get us there. So looking at this deck, it's actually almost a mono white deck. The only real green cards are the 2 that we had this whole time. I'm gonna definitely try and play them here, but I think it's gonna be like a giant spread of white cards for us. Wait, I'm not gonna play that one actually. I'm gonna put these Partisans on the side for now, but I don't think I'm gonna start them. Gore Vassal is fine. Sky Hunter is okay. Smith. And that should be all the white cards actually. So we only have 9 colored cards at the moment. We might even cut some depending on what comes up. Like I could see Gore Vassal getting cut here. Yeah. I think these guys are going to sit on the side too. Remember those. Alright, so at the moment we have 25 cards. Probably, I think all we need to do is cut 1 and we should be okay actually. I think it might just be the Gore Vassal here, and we'll have 8 colored cards to 16 artifacts, and you can also count like Mirror Smith as an artifact, like a pseudo artifact of sorts. So getting Metalcraft for our Chrome Steed and our Snapsail Glider should be perfectly fine here. I'm just gonna spread this out in terms of spells and non-spells. Nim Death Mantle's down here. So we got 19 creatures in this deck. Wow. That's not counting Origin Spell. Actually, I'll just put that back up here. That is a creature. So we're pretty good on the creature front. And it's also not counting Skinwing. So we only have 2 real removal spells, and this is like a creature, I guess. I'll just put that there then. So we basically only have 3 real non-creature cards. Yeah. I don't know what else to say here, I guess. I think that looking at this deck, we could have probably went another color other than green. White was definitely the color to be in, but maybe moving on red at some point, or maybe even blue, because there was a couple of flyers that we could have picked up too and made our deck just like a lot more aggressive. But I think the plan of like holding down the ground with like the mid-range creatures in the mid-game and then setting up for something like White Sun Zenith, Golems in the late game, I think that should be fine. We have a pretty good chance with this deck, so looking at the last card to cut, I think I'm looking at Gore Vassal, maybe one of the 4-drops, maybe Peace Strider. But I think our deck curves decently well. We've got 2 2-mana mirrors and a Palladium mirror to jump us from 4 to 5, like 4 and 5 rather. Yeah. Actually, wait, I was missing something. Where was oh, Kemba Skyguard should be in here. So I definitely have Kemba Skyguard over Gore Vassal. Now what do I cut? Because we would have, with Kemba Skyguard, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flyers. That's not too bad. Actually, that's fine. Actually, I think the Kemba Skyguard altogether should be cut. We don't really actually have to have it here. Or maybe the Glinthawk. I'm trying to see if the Glinthawk actually can do anything in our deck. The only thing it can really do is pick up Peace Strider and Pierce Strider and do some shenanigans with that. Maybe it'd also pick up the Skinwing too. Is that enough reason to play it over like a Kemba Skyguard, which might curve out better? Because doing Glinthawk shenanigans like that involves like turn 5 or turn 6 or something like that, so it might not be a something that we have to realistically think about. But I think that the possibility of being able to do that, it outweighs the benefits of having Chemist Skyguard. Like a flying 2/2 that costs 3 versus one that costs 1 that can do stuff later in the game, and gaining 2 life. I think that like the Glinthawk is a little bit better in that case. Gore Vassal might be a better card than the Glinthawk, but I think that just because for the possibilities of like these cute combos, I think that running the Glinthawk here might be a little bit better. Maybe I'm also kind of looking at the Sky Hunter. The Sky Hunter just curves better too, because we could set up some kind of sick curves with like Spell Bomb into Sky Hunter into Snap Sail Glider into Chrome Steed or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna run this with 16 lands, and we obviously have 3 Mana Mirrors and a Viridian Emissary, so we should be perfectly fine on lands. And let's see what Moto suggests. 12 and 4. I don't think so. I think 10 and 6 should be okay. We've got 1 Copper Mirror, which is basically another forest, and Viridian Emissary is another green source too, so we should be okay with 10-6. This way we get triple. We should be able to decently get triple white for Green Sun Zenith and double white for our Sky Hunter on turn 2. Yeah, so I'm just going to submit this for now, and see you back here for round 1.